Let's take a look at the profitability and financials of Air France-KLM Group, the collection of airlines that consists of the national carriers of both France and the Netherlands. It also includes low-cost carrier Transavia. When comparing full-year financials, Air France-KLM Group appears to be the second largest airline group in Europe. It had a revenue of €30 billion for the 2023 fiscal year, €5.4 billion less than the 2023 revenue of the Lufthansa Group. It's a little more than the $29.5 billion in revenue that IAG posted. And in case you were wondering, Ryanair Group only posted a revenue of €13.44 billion for its last fiscal year. But while revenues are massive, how profitable is Air France-KLM after expenses are factored in? Let's take a look for today's video. Much of this video will be using data pulled from Air France-KLM Group's third quarter reporting. Unfortunately, it's a strange time of year to be looking at financials. We are already far away from its 2023 full-year report, but still quite a few months away from a full 2024 report. Thus, we opted to look at the most recent numbers, comparing them to the same period the year prior. But in case you were still wondering about the airline group's most recent full-year figures, it turned a profit of €1.7 billion for 2023. It actually lost money in the fourth quarter of that year, blaming the result on poor cargo unit revenue, geopolitical situations in Africa and the Middle East, and other disruptions. And so, what about the third quarter of 2024? Well, group revenue for this period was about €9 billion, €8.979 billion to be precise. After factoring in expenses, the group's net income for Q3 was €824 million, down from €946 million earned in the same period last year. This profit represents an operating margin of 13%. So why the year-over-year decline of some €122 million? Well, the airline largely blames the notable drop on one single event, the Paris 2024 Summer Olympic Games. According to the airline group's reporting, the most recent Olympic Games had a negative impact on the company to the tune of €160 million. It adds that had the Olympic Games not happened in Air France's backyard, the group's operating result would have been stable. It might not be what some people would have expected with the Olympic Games. Wouldn't such a large global event bring more people to the host city? Well, not quite. As reported by the website Inside the Games, Air France-KLM Group warned the public in July 2024 that the Games could deter other travellers from visiting Paris, a major tourist destination during the summer. International markets show a significant avoidance of Paris, the airline said in a statement, adding, "Travel between the city and other destinations is also below the usual June-August average, as French residents appear to be postponing their holidays until after the Olympics or considering alternative travel plans." To a lesser extent, other factors hampered Air France-KLM's financial performance. €65 million was lost due to what it called difficult operations at KLM and Transavia. The July 2024 statement from KLM CEO Marianne Rintel stated, "The fleet could not be fully deployed. We have insufficient numbers of pilots and engineering staff and face long delivery times of spare parts." According to the Airline Observer, Group CEO Ben Smith discussed challenges with Amsterdam Airport recently, saying in early November, "As you know, we've been managing through this unilateral decision on the part of the Dutch state to lower the capacity at Schiphol Airport, which has thrown a number of unknowns toward us. How many airplanes? How many pilots? How many mechanics? What's the bank structure going to be? Is there going to be a curfew to navigate through?" That has been a big distraction. Another issue for KLM at its home airport of Schiphol is an increase in fees. As stated by the airline at the end of October, Schiphol will become the second most expensive airport in Europe as it raises its fees by 41% in the coming year. This increase comes on top of the 40% tariff increase over the past 3 years. This has major implications for both travellers and the aviation sector. As the costs of setbacks at Schiphol are passed on to airlines, higher ticket prices for travellers are inevitable. Interestingly, the airline group states that the global IT outage caused by the CrowdStrike update caused it to lose €25 million. European website TechScene stated that because of the mid-July outage, systems were temporarily out of service, forcing Air France-KLM to cancel flights, leading passengers to rebook. The airline had to offer other arrangements as well, such as hotel stays. The company also lost sales due to the circumstances, and it took days for all the problems to be fully resolved. But nonetheless, the airlines within the group remained profitable. When it comes to the different segments of the group, Air France revenue for the third quarter was €5.5 billion, with an operating margin of 13.2%. As a smaller carrier, KLM Royal Dutch Airlines had a Q3 revenue of €3.5 billion. Its operating margin was 11.1%. Another interesting tidbit is that the group's shared loyalty program, Flying Blue, earned the company €200 million for the quarter. When it comes to filling seats, the group's overall load factor was 89% across all markets. Premium seating saw a load factor of 76%, while economy class, excluding Transavia, was an impressive 91%. Over at budget airline Transavia, the load factor was 90%. As an entire group with all regional, budget and mainline subsidiaries combined, the fleet contains 565 aircraft according to planespotters.net. Air France has 226 aircraft. We won't list every aircraft type and quantity, but for the carrier's largest aircraft it operates 10 787s, 63 777s, 35 A350s and 11 A330s. KLM has just 109 aircraft, with 11 A330s, 31 777s and 23 787s. Notably, the airline took delivery of its very first A321neo in the third quarter, and at the time of making this video operates 2, with more on the way. So, as you can see, the Air France-KLM group is quite a large and profitable company, even with the Olympic Games disrupting operations. It's an incredibly competitive market in Europe. Not only does Air France-KLM have to compete with other major network players from IAG and Lufthansa Group, but it also has to compete with their low-cost and leisure subsidiaries. There's also Ryanair and EasyJet and their various subsidiaries providing stiff competition in the European short and medium-haul market. So, how do you feel about Air France-KLM's current state? Do you think it's well positioned to compete in the European market, or do you think its competitors will be taking away its market share? Let us know what you think by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.